I don't see that bout getting made. I want to see it. I mean, because I love AB. I'm all about the billions, just like AB. So I love Adrian Broner. I just don't see Adrian Broner taking that risk. I don't think Bud Crawford will have a problem fighting Broner. I just don't see Broner and his people taking that huge of a risk to fight a fighter the caliber of Terrence Crawford.
Yeah, and Bob Arum seems like he's ready to end whatever Cold War it is. He was seen doing an interview where he was saying, I'm trying to make Broner and Crawford. Al Heyman, who has just a stable of very talented fighters nonetheless, but trying to end whatever beefs, whatever barriers there are between those two. It seems that Bob Arum is trying to end that and make great fights, which I would have to admit will happen if the Cold War ends, because when you look at guys like Broner, you look at guys like Danny Garcia and Leo Santa Cruz, guys like that who are at the top of the game, they're not fighting the guys like Terrence Crawford. They're not fighting the Manny Pacquiao's of the world. They're not taking those type of opponents just because of whatever Cold War it is. So if we can end that and get back to just making the best fights, just like I just praised Dana White for in the UFC for doing, then boxing, I think, will be taken to the next level. It's already been taken to that next level by being on broadcast television now. But if we pair that with making the best fights that can be made, the sky's the limit for the sweet science.
Ladies and gentlemen, did you hear what Pierre and I just did? We made a seamless transition from women's tennis to UFC, to the sweet science known as boxing. This is why we call it the All Things Sport Podcast. That was just our first set of hot topics. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get into more hot topics, get into a little March Madness, NFL free agency, some of the retirings in the NFL. We also have a top 5 for the show today. Our top 5 is our top 5 reasons that we all love March Madness. And then we're going to end the show with the oldie, but a so goodie, our bruh for real. Pierre, we're just getting started on the All Things Sport Podcast. We're going to take this commercial break. We'll be right back on Spreaker Radio.
The All Things Sport Podcast, your source for a plethora of sports content.
For real? How much those scores? Because my man just bought a Miata.
Every Friday at 10 a.m. on Spreaker Radio.
What up? This is Pierre Banks, and when I'm back in Boone watching the Mountaineers, my first stop is always Mountaineer Mania. The good folks at Mountaineer Mania have the widest selection of app gear, so you can cheer on the Mountaineers in style. T-shirts, hats, hoodies, sweatshirts, decals, cornhole sets. I mean, if you need it, they've got it. So head on down to Mountaineer Mania at 497 West King Street in Boone and tell them I sent you.
We're back with more of the All Things Sport Podcast with Daimeon Banks and Pierre Banks on Spreaker Radio. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Welcome back to the All Things Sport Podcast. I'm Daimeon. He's Pierre. We just gave you our first set of hot topics. We talked a little bit about tennis, a little bit about UFC, got into some boxing. Now, Pierre, you know what time of year it is. It's March. It's March Madness. The NCAA tournament is going down in a major way. Right now, as we record, conference tournaments are underway. What do you say about March, man, that gets people so excited?
It's the fact that anything can happen on any day. And it's not just the NCAA tournament. Of course, that's what gets the most hype from everyone is the dance. But when you look at the conference tournaments, I mean, some of those Big East tournaments from back in the day, man, with names like Kemba Walker, names like Khalid El-Amin, names like Jerry McNamara, Carmelo Anthony, those types of names, those Big East tournaments used to be incredible. And ACC tournaments, for as long as I can remember, have been some of the best basketball that I've seen. I mean, just today, Duke was up, 16 on Notre Dame in the second half. Notre Dame comes back and steals victory from Coach K, the best to ever do it. So that's just March. Anything can happen at any time. The only thing we do know as of certainty right now is that North Carolina State is done for the season.
Hey, friend. No need to throw salt in the wound of Wolfpack fans, man. You know we live that pack life.
Well, sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying.
Oh, definitely, man, because like we were saying before, man, I hope I have not seen Cat Barber, play his last game in the NC State uniform. I love that guy, man. Like, his game is so crazy to me. I call him a baby Westbrook. And, I think that if he does move on to the next level, Cat Barber will produce numbers in the NBA. I just hope that he comes back to Raleigh and, helps NC State compete for an ACC championship next season.
Hey, Daimeon, can you imagine the type of madness that we will have this March? I mean, the field is wide open.
It's definitely wide open. This year in college basketball has been definitely like herky-jerky. You never know who's going to win. We had so many number one teams this year. Oklahoma, Kansas, UNC was number one at one point in the season, Villanova. It's been several number one teams, man, and they've all been getting knocked off. It's wide open this year in the NCAA tournament. You don't know who's going to win it, man. That's why we love this time of year. The top 5 on this episode is why people love March Madness so much. But, just this time of year, man, the basketball, NBA basketball as well as college basketball, it's that time of year. Getting down to crunch time as we transition, talking about March, we transition from college basketball to the NBA, getting down to the last 20 some odd games of the regular season of the NBA season, teams jockeying for playoff positions. I'm going to give props to a team who has made so big of a stride this year. And they're pretty much a big surprise to me in the Eastern Conference, man. The Charlotte freaking Hornets, led by Kemba Walker, man. Kemba is playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah, he seems to always play his best basketball in March.
Yeah, the Charlotte Hornets right now, I believe they're like in the 5th spot in the Eastern Conference. I think they're like 8 games over 500. Who would have thought that the Charlotte Hornets would be one of the teams that are in the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference?
The team that I'm most surprised and shocked about is the Boston Celtics. How about the C's coming in at 3rd right now in the Eastern Conference? Led by Isaiah Thomas, the all-star that no one considers a superstar. All he's done is just carry his team to the 3rd spot in the Eastern Conference. I don't know that they'll win the Eastern Conference, but I know they'll be a tough out.
Yeah, Brad Stevens has done an outstanding job in Beantown, coming over from Butler a couple years ago, has built that roster full of young, talented players. They play hard, they play defense. One of the few teams in the NBA that actually runs plays. So Brad Stevens done a great job with the Celtics. Don't know what Miami is going to do in the playoffs. Don't know the health of Chris Bosh. He's been out since the All-Star break. Had another flare-up of those blood clots in his lungs.
He's hoping to come back this season, though.
You can't really, etch that in stone. We don't know about his health. So I'm not really putting too much stock into the Miami Heat right now. Do love Hassan Whiteside. That kid's a great player. And I can say great because he plays defense. He blocks shots and rebounds. And that's a lost art in today's NBA.
The talent only gets richer and deeper as you look to the Western Conference. And I have to say this because I didn't give it as just due at the trade deadline for the NBA. But the acquisition of Jeff Green for the LA Clippers was huge. Jeff Green is hooping right now, and he just looks comfortable in that system and playing for Doc Rivers again and being in the role that he's in. He's going to come up bigger than people expect in these playoffs.
Definitely. Now, no disrespect to Memphis. Love 3-6 Mafia. Love Yo Gotti. Love, barbecue from Memphis. All that. Love the blues.
What about I Heart Memphis?
Love all that. But wouldn't you be happy if you moved from Memphis, Tennessee to Los Angeles, California, where it's sunny all year round. I mean, it never rains in Southern California, Pierre. Like Jeff Green has, he's hooked back up, with Doc Rivers, where he had a lot of his success when Doc was in Boston and Jeff Green was in Boston. So, that's a big pickup for the LA Clippers. Looking at the OKC Thunder, man, Russell Westbrook, man, I love Russell Westbrook, man. Like I said many times on this show, he is the most ornery player in the history of the NBA. That guy plays with the chip of the size of a boulder in Boulder, Colorado on his shoulder. And, KD is KD. Serge Ibaka is solid. Got a pretty good bench. I look for OKC to make an upset in that Western Conference playoffs.
OKC has the opportunity to win it all. And you may say that's a bold statement, but in today's NBA, you don't need a dominant center, which they don't have, but you do need shooters. And they've got shooters on the floor. Again, they match up so well with the Golden State Warriors. And Russell Westbrook is going to be a matchup problem for whoever is across from him. Kevin Durant, the Durantula, is going to be a matchup problem for whoever's in front of him. Can the Thunder make enough stops, though? That remains to be seen, but they have a shot to really win it all.
You said several cans for OKC. My number one can is, can they stop blowing fourth quarter leads? I mean, OKC is a fantastic team. They get up on people and then they let them back in the game. And I don't understand it. When you have two of the top 10 players in the world, in your starting five, how do you not score for, several minutes? I've never understood that. Even going back to the days of Michael and Scottie Pippen, if you got two of the top 10 players in the world on your team, one of those guys have to be on the court at all times to ensure continuity on your offense, and you should not go through scoring droughts. So that remains to be seen with OKC. Moving on to the San Antonio Spurs. Popovich, man, he's going to be Greg Popovich. He's going to coach that team, hard. They're going to always put themselves in a position to win games. They play smart. They play together. They don't beat themselves. Kawhi Leonard having a breakout year. First All-Star team. He is the leader of that team right now. And the Spurs are nipping at the heels of the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, they don't get a lot of coverage, and you don't hear much about them, just kind of flying under the radar. But the Spurs only have 10 losses on the season. That's phenomenal. And when they get into the playoffs, they're going to be just as dangerous as anybody.
If you go to banksboy.com and go to our YouTube channel, our latest video, we asked who was the best player in the NBA. Got an interesting comment on that video. Basically calling us stupid, we're lame, because we don't, I don't think that Steph Curry is the best player in the world.
Neither do I.
And that's just my humble opinion. Golden State, they have a great team. Starting five, phenomenal. Bench players come in, they keep it going.
Second to none.
They have a great team. So I'm not saying that, Golden State has a great chance of coming out of the West. But you got Golden State, you have OKC, LA, the Clippers, that is, and the Spurs. Either one of those four teams are, they can win the West, regardless of how great of a season Golden State is having. When you get to the playoffs, it's a different monster. So kudos to Steve Kerr. Kudos to Steph. Kudos to Clay. They have a great team. But that Western Conference is so tough. And I would be naive to think that they're just going to run through the West. Anything can happen.
And I stand behind my stance that Steph Curry is not the best player in the NBA. He's the best offensive player, without a doubt. But when you look at the best overall player, LeBron James is the best player in the NBA. He does it at both ends, offensively, defensively. He's walking triple double, waiting to happen. Just always seems to be on the cusp. He can be put on the opposing team's best player down the stretch to try to get stops. And when you need a bucket, you want the ball in his hands. That's the definition of the best player in the NBA.
I am not going to, get into it about who's the best player. We did a video on that. If you want to chime in on that, go to banksboy.com, click on the YouTube link, watch that video, comment on the section